Welcome, folks. Welcome. Welcome, 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 humans, as you are arriving from the waiting room. Welcome on in. Welcome, welcome. We are glad you are all here. We start our service, as many of you know, by inviting in some guests from the more than just human world. So as you arrive, I am also inviting in some other folks. See if you can figure out who this is. I won't play them too long because I know some of you have dogs in the house who might have been wondering about who our guests were there. But those folks, those are Canis lupus, otherwise known as the gray wolf. Many of us have been keenly aware over the last few months of the problems that are facing the gray wolves here in the United States. But wolves face challenges all over the world. The red wolf is critically endangered, appearing in the wild only through reintroduction efforts. And only a few hundred of the Ethiopian wolves are still around. Their population dwindled from habitat loss and diseases and genetic bottlenecks and climate change and, as you could probably guess, conflict with humans. In far too many habitats, wolves are killed in retaliation for perceived and real risks to what many people call livestock, but what around here we tend to call sheep, cows, goats, pigs, and often by their individual names. Indeed, keeping animals captive for human use leads to a lot of problems for wild living creatures too, something that is often easy to forget. So today, as we start our time together and in honor of wolves all around the world, I will pop a link in the chat for you all with some tips for how you might advocate for wolves. Welcome to Compassion Consortium Sunday service. I'm Reverend William. Oh, I'm Reverend William. I traded places with you, Reverend. I'm Reverend Sarah Bowen, and I'm joined today by Reverend William and Victoria Melton. Our service is also brought to you today through the help of other crucial members of our team, Phil, Elaine, and Jen, and a few special guests. In order to keep a contemplative feel to our services and to ensure we don't have unwanted, disruptive, odd guests, we have turned off most of the Zoom sharing functions. So if you go looking for them, you'll know why you're not able to do some things you might be trying to do. We meet on the third Sunday of each month, and if you're new to us, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are an interfaith, interspiritual, and interspecies community. And interfaith means we welcome people from any spiritual or religious tradition or philosophy or path or way of meaning making. And today we are featuring Barbara Gardner, the founder and chief executive of Animal Interfaith Alliance. So stay tuned, she's coming up. Interspiritual means that we believe underneath all of those wisdom traditions, there lies a deeper unity of experience and also a commitment to three common values: a desire for peace, a call to be of compassionate service, and love and care for the Earth community. And finally, Compassion Consortium, as you probably guessed from the beginning, wolves, is interspecies, which means we desire to have a truly inclusive spiritual community that rejects the idea of human superiority and considers the needs of the many species we share the planet with. For example, I'm speaking to you today from the Hudson River Valley, land cherished by and taken from the Munsee Lenape. This habitat is home to over 200 types of fish, 19 species of rare birds, and 140 rare plants. While we don't often see wolves here, we do have our share of carnivorous creatures, including coyotes and red foxes and bobcats, great horned owls, black bears, and red-tailed hawks. The latter nest on the land that I live on leading me to understand that interspecies living, when you love squirrels and you cohabitate with red-tailed hawks, is a messy endeavor to wrap your head around for sure. So is living in a community like ours that is threatened by large-scale mining. So as you arrive today, just take a moment to take a breath and think about who is in your habitat today. There might be a dog or a cat or someone else nearby. Who is outside your window? What needs do they have? What challenges do they face? Later in our service, we'll be talking with Lauren from Pro Animal Future about ways to become more aware of the challenges facing animals who are farmed and how one community is taking action on their behalf. And today is a very, 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 very special day here at the Compassion Consortium. Not just because it falls amidst a bunch of holy days as usual, including today's the Jain celebration of Mahavira Jayanti. It's also the Baha'i Fest of Ridvan, and we're teetering on the eve of Earth Day. And some of you are also teetering on the edge here of the beginning of Passover for our Jewish members. But it's very, very special for another reason. Today is our anniversary. Yes, friends, today the Compassion Consortium turns 3. I feel like a toddler. I'm 3. But that is a big deal for us. Many moons ago, when William Melton had the idea for this community, he started the seeds of what you're experiencing today. In our very first Sunday service, as I opened up with my sermon-ish, I uttered the following words. We hope that today starts the gathering of a vibrant community of spiritual people who care for and about the planet and its many living beings. We read our Tenets of Agreement for the first time publicly and shared that our primary goal would be to spread compassion everywhere, to everyone, in everything we do. And we've worked very, very hard towards that goal. And the compassionate seeds that William and his amazing partner, wife, and co-founder, Victoria Moran, planted and tended have grown beyond our monthly Sunday services to include book nights and film nights and music nights. We added engaged member practice nights for those of you who want to deepen your spiritual connection and learn tools for increasing resiliency and reducing burnout that animal and earth advocates can have. This year, we added a collaboration with Dave Simon to bring you a vegan meditation group. And this month, drumroll please, we're announcing our new monthly animal companion support group to help you navigate the loss of any furry family members, which is led by Rev Ginny. We've also seen robust engagement with our animal chaplaincy training program and incredible interest in Miss Liberty, our new feature-length film project. We've been mentioned in the Washington Post and 70 other media outlets, and we're now appearing in the new Routledge Animals and Religion textbook as an example of a community doing something cool in the interspecies field. Over 1,000 people have attended the consortium's events or through replays, and 400 of you are joining us as subscribers to our YouTube channel. And we've met countless more animal advocates at our outreach events and animal and spiritual conferences and gatherings, from the Parliament of the World Religions to the Humane Society's Animal Care Expo annual conference. So why am I tooting our horn so much? What it tells me is that what we are all doing here is important, and it's necessary, and it's useful. Living in a world where human and animal needs clash is not easy. Keeping our eyes open to the places where there is suffering can be painful. Advocacy can be frustrating, exhausting, and lonely. We come together at the consortium to remember that promoting the needs of other species, individual animals, and habitats can also be effective and invigorating and even playful and funny sometimes. We come together to remember that all of the weight of the world is not solely on each of our shoulders. We are not alone in this crucial work. We come together to share our joys and our challenges. William, thank you for having the idea for this community. And Victoria, thank you for encouraging him and working with him to make it a reality. Thank you both for trusting me to join you. Thank you, Phil and Elaine and Jen and Marie and Marshall, Ginny, Jody, Jill, and our beloved advisory board and Dave Simon for tending the seeds towards steady growth. And thank all of you in the participants list, and all of you who are watching in the future. Thank you for becoming part of this vibrant community that we really, really hoped for. As we enter the sacred space today, let us do so with gratitude for the present moment and with excitement for what is yet to come. Over to you, William.
All right, so this is the point where we always read our tenets of agreement, which are very important to us. And we created these like 3 years ago. It was part of our originally event was to create tenets of agreement that we would all agree with it. And we share these every month. And so now, in celebration of the 3rd anniversary of the founding of the Compassion Consortium, you have a real treat because I'm going to read with you our tenets of agreement. So I'm starting right now. Number 1, we acknowledge a divine force at the heart of the universe and in all living beings. We may refer to this force as God, but it is unknown by many names and appears in different forms or as formless. We recognize the common moral principles inherent with all wisdom traditions. We affirm that compassion, reverence for life, and nonviolence are fundamental to religious faith and moral philosophy and are to be extended to all sentient beings. We stand by the principles of inclusion, diversity, and equality and hold these as essential in our human relationships. We hold that non-human animals are imbued with the same essence of life and a love as are human animals, and that there is moral parity between us. We avow that humans do not own the earth, its resources, or its inhabitants, but instead we must be involved in their protection and care. We endeavor to eat and live in a kind and sustainable manner, moving away from animal foods and animal-derived clothing, as well as any activities that cause harm to our fellow beings, human or otherwise. We aim to provide spiritual comfort, fellowship, and food for thought to those practicing or exploring a vegan lifestyle. We offer guidance and peer support for all those seeking a more compassionate and spiritual life. And lastly, we commit to sharing these principles freely with humility and respect in support of non-human animals and the earth. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing those. It never gets old. It just gets more ingrained, I think, in all of us. Thank you for that. So I would be remiss not to give a shout out also to the fourth co-founder who helped us kick this organization off, Reverend Erica Allison, who got us started on interspecies spiritual practices. And you can still catch Erica doing walking meditation with geese and meditating with cows and chanting shalom with sheep on our YouTube channel. So if you'd like to see any of those, I want to call them vintage now. Am I allowed to call them vintage? Any of our past spiritual practices, to try them again or to use them in your community, or to just to check them out and be inspired, you can do that on the Compassion Consortium YouTube channel. But today we've got a little something for you, a little something I think cheery, inspired by Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh and the AIA and Vine. Let me try to wrap that all together. Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "Sometimes your joy is the source of your smile, but sometimes your smile can be the source of your joy." Sometimes your joy is the source of your smile, but sometimes your smile can be the source of your joy. And apparently science agrees with Buddhism. I've been doing a little research on smiling this week for this practice. And the practice is featuring some small creatures we call kids, human kids. Did you know that children, on average, smile up to 400 times a day? And adults average 20? Let me say that again. Kids smile up to 400 times a day on average, and we adults average 20. I think that should cause us to pause for a moment and reflect. I understand why these numbers may differ. The more I learn about the reality of the world that we live in and become aware of the suffering in it, the harder it is to smile sometimes. Anyone else feel that way? Some days it feels difficult to smile. And yet smiling is really, really important to good mental well-being. It helps us regulate emotions because smiling reduces, anyone else know this? Endorphins, which can lead to improved mood and reduced stress. So it is really, really good for us. Smiling can improve our resilience and have a more optimistic outlook, even when we're doing tough stuff. And here's something kind of interesting on the flip side. Frowning can reinforce negative emotions, keep us stuck in them, and perpetuate a cycle of distress. So for today's practice, we'll take a cue from children who instinctively smile. And since smiling is often contagious, watching them smile might help us smile, which might improve our ability to stay hopeful when we're facing all those things that we don't want to smile about. So in just a moment, Phil will play a very poppy 5-minute musical offering from the folks at Animal Interfaith Alliance and Vine that I think may help you crack a smile. And then as you go out from this service, I urge you to remember to seek reasons to smile. It's good for you. It's good for your friends. It's good for your family. It's good for animals. It's good for the planet.
What's going on in our world? Children are crying, animals dying. We got a chance, now it's our turn. So what we gonna do? Remember the golden rule. I am you are me. We should live in harmony. Treat everyone under the sun with your loving kindness. we should live
in harmony.
treat everyone
With compassion, humans and animals are one.
the golden rule. Be kind to me, be kind to you. The golden rule. Be kind to the animals too. The golden rule. Our planet needs us now, it's true. The golden rule. Just let your love shine through. The golden rule. Be kind to me, be kind to you. The golden rule. Be kind to the animals too. The golden rule. Our planet needs us now, it's true. The golden rule. Just let your love shine through.
Well, I've got a smile. How about you, Victoria? I like
I
kids without
do.
teeth in the front. They always get me.
Yeah, that was really fun. And it reminds me of the 400 smiles a day. So I think it upped us a little bit, all of us adult people. So thank you very much and welcome, Compassionites. Our special spiritual guest today is Barbara Gardner. She's the founder of the Animal Interfaith Alliance, which has been alluded to several times already. She is also the author of The Compassionate Animal, an interfaith guide to including animals in our circle of compassion. And she's won all sorts of cool awards. The Shining World Compassion Award by Supreme Master TV, and a Queen Victoria Silver Medal for long and meritorious service to animal welfare. Now, for an Anglophile like me, somebody that's won the Queen Victoria anything has to be so astoundingly cool. And not only that, Barbara Gardner actually is in the UK, where it's very late. So thank you extra, Barbara, for being with us this evening.
Well, thank you. I feel so honoured to have been invited here. I mean, I think the work you do is so wonderful and inspiring that, yeah, such an honour to be part of it.
Well, it's always wonderful to work with you, Barbara, as we did last summer with the World Parliament of Religions. But I was thinking today, as I was reading your bio and everything, of how our paths a little bit geographically crossed at an earlier point in history. So when you were 5 years old, I was 18, and I was living in London, where I discovered Quakers and spiritualists and an esoteric bookshop called Watkins. I discovered yoga. I became a vegetarian. And it seemed to me that all that could have only happened in England. And you were born there. You were growing up there. So tell us a little bit about what it's like to be you in a country that has such a long history of animal rights, vegetarianism, and veganism.
Well, yes, I mean, certainly the RSPCA is celebrating its 200th anniversary this year, and it was set up in 1824. It's unbelievable to think that, by people such as William Wilberforce, that the people who were fighting to abolish slavery were also fighting for animal rights. So yes, 200 years of that. They started off as the Society for the Protection of Animals, or Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. And yes, Queen Victoria came along and she gave them her royal assent, and they became the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. So yes, it's lovely to have that history, behind us, and so much to build on. And this year they've launched a new brand to care for all kinds of animals. People often associate them with caring for cats and dogs. perhaps rabbits, but mainly companion animals. And they're really pushing out to consider all animals, including farm animals, who we have overlooked, I think, in all of our countries.
Yeah, I think that's happening here as well. I remember going to events for large animal welfare organizations in decades past, and the dinner choices would be chicken or beef. And those days are long gone. So we're making tremendous progress. So let's just talk about your progress, Barbara. I'm fascinated by your life and your personal trajectory. And you found the religions of the world before you tied spirituality to animal welfare and animal rights. So tell us your story.
Well, I was brought up as in the Church of England tradition, as people generally are in the UK, and didn't know much about any other faith. And it was only later reading about them that I thought, well, hang on, these aren't in competition. They've got a lot in common. They share so much, particularly the golden rule, to treat others as you wish to be treated yourself. And thank you very much for playing the Golden Rule song. It's lovely to see it, but getting out there and being played and see all those smiles. But yes, it was only later I realised that there are all these other faiths, and actually they all have this underlying theme in common. This a divinity that runs through all life, which Reverend William mentioned when he talked about your wording this earlier this evening.
Tell us about your personal spiritual path today. Do you still identify as Church of England? And for those of us who don't know much about England, what's the belief system? What's the theology you came from?
Well, the Church of England is basically Christianity, but Henry VIII decided that he wanted to have his own faith, an Anglican faith, when he left the Catholic Church, when he fell out with the Pope over his divorce a very long time ago, and we've still got the Church of England. But basically, everybody uses the same book, whether you're Catholic, Quaker. It's the same Bible. So yes, that's what the tradition I was brought up in, but also finding out later about Buddhism, Jainism, Taoism. People think they're very different, but there's so much in common.
And it's so interesting to me, Barbara, that you and I and probably everybody in this Zoom room sees that there is an interconnection between faith traditions, personal spirituality, and the treatment of animals, coexisting with animals and changing things for animals on this planet. And yet I think the prevailing attitude probably in the animal rights movement is to hell with religions, because they have ignored the animals and now we're going to ignore them. But obviously you, with the Animal Interfaith Alliance, see that differently. So tell us about your view.
Well, I have some sympathy with people who think that, because very often it's been the church that's been very anthropocentric. Humans are made in God's image and nothing else is. And that's been a tradition which I don't think came from the original teachings. And I think this is true of all faiths. A lot of the original teachings have been forgotten, and a large amount of anthropocentrism has been put over those religions, which is what people outside of faith see and obviously feel frustrated by. But I think, it's our duty to inform people that actually that's not how the original faiths were based. It's been a misinterpretation.
So tell us about some of your member organizations in the Animal Interfaith Alliance. It's almost like you've got the United Nations of spiritual animal advocates in your organization. So tell us about some members that maybe surprised you that they're there, or people who said things that surprised you to hear. Let us in on some of the inner circle stuff.
Well, we've got one absolutely fantastic member called the Compassion Consortium, who we're absolutely delighted to have as a member. We've also got Veganism in Education, who made that film we saw earlier. And you might think, well, they're not a faith or a religion, but they do represent a worldview. And veganism is now considered to be a worldview, certainly in the UK and in European law. And in the religious education teaching now that is happening in the UK, or at least in England and Wales, they're looking at religions and worldviews. So it's not just the traditional faiths. And so it now includes humanism and veganism as a worldview. So we're really working on that with our religious education resources.
That is really exciting. So for Americans and others who are not aware of this, can you tell us what happened in the UK? So my understanding is now that veganism there is a protected class, that if you're in a nursing home or in the military and you need vegan food or vegan shoes, you have a right to have that just as much as something that was stipulated by a religion would be required.
That's absolutely right. And we had the 2010 Equality Act, which said that, veganism and these worldviews must be sort of respected and taken into account.
Wow. I just wish that the immigration laws had been that I would have stayed. That it's such an amazing place to me, but I know we have to make magic wherever we are. And some of the magic that you made is founding a major international animal rights organization. I mean, did you just wake up one day and say, oh, I want to do something spectacular?
Well, it wasn't quite like that. I just saw shall we say, a gap in the market. I mean, there was a number of animal advocacy organisations for different faiths. So, for example, the Anglican Society for Animal Welfare, Catholic Concern for Animals, the Jewish Vegetarian Society, and they were all working within their own faiths, quite rightly too. But I just felt if we all got together, we'd be a stronger voice for animals, particularly when it comes to campaigning and political lobbying. I mean, if you say to a politician, this is an interfaith view that we should treat animals in such a way, I think they respect it because there is a concern that we should be aware of faiths and of diversity and interfaith.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. And there's so many amazing people around you. So of all the issues, which ones do you see most unite animal advocates who are also people of faith?
I think, well, I mean, anything to do with protecting animals. Obviously, veganism is a major subject because so many animals suffer in the food industry, but other areas such as laboratory research on animals, animals in entertainment, certainly. In fact, one area, somebody said to me when I first set up AIA, she said, oh, you'll never get people to agree because you've got issues like slaughter and slaughtering animals. And some people say they should be stunned and some people say they shouldn't be stunned. And I said, well, actually, we do agree because we don't agree with slaughter at all. We believe in not eating animals. So this isn't an issue, which kind of surprised them.
I love that. What an interesting idea that when we're talking with somebody and there's controversy over a halfway point, to just say, well, let's go all the way. And then maybe that would take care of everything. I love that idea. So are there sticking points? Are there some issues that you just avoid, or these that animal people who are part of faith traditions just stay away from to keep the peace?
I mean, not with us. I think certainly some individuals might find they wouldn't want to talk about certain issues within their church, and they might feel ostracized if they did. But we try to, talk about these things and not turn away from anything.
So what advice do you have for people who are part of a church, synagogue, mosque, something or other, and they really want to bring in animals or veganism or something, and they feel that that's not a welcome topic?
That is such a common situation, I know, for so many people, and I think they find a lot of solace in joining organisations. So, for example, if you're a Quaker and you felt like that, you might join Quaker Concern for Animals. So, actually, by joining these individual animal advocacy faith-based groups, people do find a community that they can work in, but it's still difficult when they go back to their own church. And I think all we can say is, if you can find one other person, just within that church to share your ideas with, and then maybe make it grow, just keep at it. And I think this is something you've said, don't sort of argue against eating meat, produce lovely vegan food. And I don't know how many times you've been somewhere and there's a little vegetarian or vegan section, and somehow everybody else wants it because it's so tempting.
It is interesting that this is a way of life in the practical sense, the food sense. And it's so interesting that I don't think of not eating animals as being a dietary choice, but the world certainly does. And, you'll say things like, well, I'm vegan. And somebody says, you got to meet my sister. She's gluten-free. And it's just so fascinating that bringing it back to the food, as prosaic as that may be, seems to be where we reach people. So food today, philosophy tomorrow. So speaking of reaching people through philosophy and religion, the documentary Christspiracy is out there. Have you seen it? And if you have, what did you think?
It's a very impressive documentary, very well researched and produced, and certainly a huge amount of food for thought. But certainly a lot to think about. And they've really done their research, and I think people should take some of the ideas that they've presented seriously and really consider them. Was Jesus a vegetarian? There were groups, Nazarenes. I think it needs some investigation. The producers have done a lot of that investigation, and very interesting.
Well, I love it that we have all of these incredible documentaries. I feel now that if I were going to school, I would try to do one of those create your own major things. And it would just be, I'm going to watch every animal rights documentary in existence and form some kind of amazing worldview and write about that. So there is a question from our Zoom deck about family. That is the hardest thing. We want the people we care about most to want this. So do you have any ideas for helping them want that? Or if they do, how do we help?
That's a difficult one, because I think family, of all people, your family take you the least seriously. So sometimes it helps to have somebody from the outside, somebody who's, I don't know, a pop star or some famous person. If you can demonstrate that they like eating vegan food, they're more likely to be impressed by them than by their relative.
Yeah, I think you're right. For I do pray for the celebrities that once they say they're with us, they stay with us, because they can do so much good and so much harm when they leave. So I want to ask you a question that might be for real and might be for fantasy, but do you hold some hope? And if you do, what is it? That some major religion would do something major for the cause of animals? And even if that's just a fantasy, what would it be?
Well, that's an interesting one. I mean, certainly we know the Janes are already there. They already, you know, teach ahimsa and non-harming in any way, and that includes not eating animals. There's not enough of them, unfortunately. So you're looking at something like one of the great Abrahamic religions who have or maybe Buddhism that has the largest number of followers. Buddhism should do it, and many Buddhists are, you know, are vegan, are, you know, who do practice their own form of ahimsa and non-harming, but not all of them. And I know that's something that Dharma Voices for Animals is working very hard on to convince Buddhists of the need of not harming animals. So yes, something like that breaking through, I think would be magnificent. If it was the Catholic Church, that would be that would be totally transformational.
That would be stunning. I believe it is appropriate to say from your mouth to God's ears. So AIA's 10th anniversary year, and it feels like you guys have been around so much longer because you have all these member organizations. It seems like you've been around forever. But how about 10 years from now, 20th anniversary year? How does the world look for animals?
Well, I'd like to think that things have changed, that people are eating far more plant-based foods. I mean, even if not for the animals, say for the environment, you know, that people can actually learn, or even for their health. There are so many reasons to make that change, but obviously, if people did it because they cared about animals, because there was some sense of compassion there, I think that would be the greatest thing.
Well, let's just envision that. And because this is Mahavira's celebratory day, I'd just like to close first with thanking you, Barbara Gardner, Animal Interfaith Alliance, and then closing with a quotation, my favorite quotation in all the world, which comes from Mahavira, who said, "To every creature, their own life is very dear." Hard to argue with that.
Thank you so much, Victoria, for having me. I'm really humbled and appreciate it. Thank you.
All the best to you, Barbara.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm going to talk about our Song of Compassion. It's a very special song that ties into our April 24th Animal Welfare, Music, and History Night. The talented husband and wife team of singer-songwriter Bill Van Noter and noted journalist Alyssa Free will be featured in the Compassion Consortium's Music and Memories Night on Wednesday, April 24th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Join us for an evening of Bill's music and Alyssa's memories of growing up in the burgeoning animal welfare movement with one of its pioneers, Ann Cottrell Free. Please check out our website and join us for this Animal Welfare, Music, and History Night on April 24th. And now we're going to see a preview of one of Bill's songs.
Tiny A divided house simply cannot stand. In unison and in harmony, we can overcome so much greed and cruelty. Strike the chord and listen to the sound. Do not lose the spirit that we found. Look towards the new world where we're bound. We are seeking common ground. Yes, strike the chord.
Strike the chord and listen to the sound. Don't you lose the spirit that we found. Strike the chord and listen to the sound. Don't you lose the spirit that we found. Strike the chord and listen to the sound. Don't you lose the spirit that we found. Strike the chord. We're seeking common ground. And listen to the sound. Don't you lose common ground. The spirit that we found. Strike the chord. We're seeking common ground. And listen to the sound. Don't you lose common ground. The spirit that we found. Strike the chord. We're seeking common ground. And listen to the sound. Don't you lose common ground. The spirit that we found. Strike the chord. We're seeking common ground. And listen to the sound. Don't you lose common ground. The spirit that we found. Strike the chord.
Hey everyone, it's time for Compassion in Action, and regrettably, our planned guest, Laura Urim, was unable to be here with us today, but we have a special treat. At least I think it's a special treat. We're going to be talking to the marvelous Judy Ramsey. Judy is a shamanic practitioner, and she specializes in animal wisdom and journeying with animals. And I am so excited to be able to speak with her because I find what she does fascinating. So welcome, Judy, and thank you for being with us today.
Thanks, Elaine.
So can you tell us just a bit, how does one become a shaman in these modern day times? I view it as connected with South American native peoples, maybe the medicine men and women of the North American peoples. Can you educate us a little about it?
Sure, shamanism is a practice, and it's kind of like veganism in that it's not a religion. It is a lifestyle and a life perspective. It's been around for nearly 10,000 years. And the word shaman actually comes from a Siberian Tungus word, meaning one who sees in the dark. All over the world in all different cultures, and we all have come from shamanic-based cultures because years and years ago, centuries and eons ago, that was the medicine of the day. It was very spiritually based and very nature-based.
So how did you start on your journey to become a modern day shaman?
Was actually, and it's shamanic practitioner. If you're a
Okay.
shaman, you are named that. That's your title given to you by your village people, by a community, and all the rest of us are practitioners. But I started on my journey through my horses, through my animals. And then I found when I was learning to do more deep animal communication, my mentor, Penelope Smith, introduced shamanism in her practice. And from there, I went and found Carla Meske and Sandra Ingerman and Tom Cowan and a whole bunch of other wisdom keepers that I absolutely adore.
Did you study with them in person or how?
I
what is
did.
that?
Yeah, and I'm one of Sandra Ingerman's approved instructors, actually. I've
So
been
if one, oh, sorry, go ahead, please.
That's okay. I've been doing the work and the teaching for nearly 20 years, and with Sandra about 8.
Well, that was my next question. If somebody wanted to become a shamanic practitioner, and thank you for clarifying that term for me, could someone study with you?
Absolutely. Yeah. We all have cycles um, of classes. Usually it's a 1 to 2 year kind of teaching and mentorship
Mhm.
to become a practitioner. And I happen to focus on animals, and I also work with people, but my primary focus is on working with animals.
So there was a European tradition, actually 18th century France, when the great natural histories came out. And the people then, everybody who could read, viewed, even those who couldn't read with the bestiaries, viewed learning from animals as a way to become a better human. And natural history was that, not to learn more about the animals' lives, but to learn more wisdom from them. And I find it fascinating that you share that belief. Can you tell us a bit more about animal wisdom and how it applies to your life and the lives of your fellow shamanic practitioners?
Sure. One of the premises of shamanic practice is that we are all part of the web of life. So we're not on the outside looking in at the animals or looking in at anybody else. It's not us and another, it's us and others that are equal with us. So it's very compatible with the premises of this organization, of the Compassion Consortium, in that everybody is equal and has an equal energy, equal say, equal divinity.
And this section, compassion in action, I sometimes I believe that as we do as humans, we view animals from the outside and we judge their actions as being not kind, not the preying upon another, killing another, whatever label we put on them. What have you learned in your wisdom from animals that do you see them as compassionate creatures, compassionate towards other animals, compassionate towards humans?
Um, Most of the animals that I work with, and the people actually, uh, from a shamanic perspective, you're looking at the spirit of the animal or the person, not what you see. And that's how animals generally live, is primarily in spirit. So very few of the animals will have actual judgments because they're very present with what is happening in the moment. And they're more concerned about the spirit of the relationship and the person than they are about the actions. They have a tremendous capacity for forgiving the actions because they know that's not the real person. And when I work with people and animals in interspecies counseling, and I also train people to be interspecies counselors, we look at the spirit of the relationship, and we get the broader view, and that's where the compassion comes in. It's hard when you're nitpicking, or looking at very pointed and precise aspects of a person or relationship to be objective or to be non-judgmental or to be compassionate, because we're only looking at one aspect. When we get the broader view, as the animals take in, it's the entire energy field of that relationship and the entire energy field of the entire web that we're tied into when we're tuned into a particular person or animal.
Can you tell us a bit about that? What was your first experience like with an animal when you realized
Oh, it brought me to my knees. I was in some training to do equine facilitated therapy. I was one-on-one with a horse named Harmony, of all things, and I was doing my first kind of communication with this animal, and all of a sudden she brought in all of the horse ancestors, and I received an initiation on the spot that absolutely overwhelmed me and brought me to my knees and to tears. It was the most amazing and beautiful event that I can even describe.
And probably indescribable.
Oh, no words for it. No
Yeah.
words.
So what words of wisdom could you offer us today, those of us who are not part of this practice, maybe fascinated by it? What wisdom can we learn from animals in our everyday lives? What would you advise the common everyday human to learn from the animals that exist in our house and around us?
It's going to sound very Taoist, but to be a hollow bone, to be very present with the moment,
Mm,
and to be very um, at the same time that you're present in the moment, to be present in the universal moment, to be very to take the broader view whenever possible. And there is a shamanic saying, hollow bone. It means you leave all your baggage, your judgments, everything that we carry around with us all the time that affects our perception,
mm,
leave that at the door. And if you're present with the spirit of what's happening, then you can see and experience the energy of a relationship, of a person, of a situation.
So that explains what I was curious about when you were talking about existing in the spirit of, and how the animals exist in the spirit. One last question, Judy, and I hope it's one others have as well. We have, not we have, but we live our lives with pets, and I have horses as well, and they have been to me God's beauty on earth my whole life. But there have been many times when I thought I have done something wrong, or I felt I needed forgiveness from an animal. Do they forgive us? Do they understand our need for that, and do they forgive us?
I can answer with an anecdote from one of my horses. I was at the training far away, and I communicate with my animals whenever I'm gone. And over lunchtime, I overheard some women saying, I hate it when people call me my horse's mom. They're not children, they are beings in their own right, you know?
Mm.
So I connected with my horse and I said, does it bother you when we call you kids? Because we would call them down from the upper pasture saying, come on, kids, it's dinner time. And she said, without missing a beat, nope, that's what we call you too.
Oh, I love that. I see there's a question here. Please ask how to communicate with people in the nature traditions. The question is reflecting on, there are those who are, strong vegans, vegetarians, and there seems to be a lot of questions around that. Can you speak a little bit on that before we close? We have a few more seconds.
Would you clarify the question for me, please? Just repeat it one more time.
Okay, please ask how to communicate with people in the nature traditions. I find it difficult with vegetarianism and veganism, and would love to get through that.
I'm not sure I understand the nature of the question.
Well, there we go then. So I think, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Because I think it's very compatible with vegan traditions. One of the things that does come up from time to time is how animals fit into the overall picture of nature-based traditions that may include eating animals or using animal skins for tools and things like that, like drums or rattles, clothing. And I think it probably stems from long ago traditions that that's all they had. And their communication with the animals included asking permission to take the life.
Yes.
And there is an entire cosmology that some religions have even, of ordering, animals were put here to serve humans and that kind of thing. These days we have artificial drums, and there are companies that make them, and there are always options to choose from. And we can always give sacred send-offs if we find that the tools made from animal parts are necessary. And usually it's from animals that have already passed. We're using the bodies. And the animals really have communicated to me time and time again that whatever we do with their bodies after their soul has left it is up to us. They have no investment in the body like humans do.
Okay, and thank you. The person who asked that did thank you for answering, and that was her question. Judy, I cannot thank you enough. I'm afraid I'm going to forewarn this forum. You're going to hear me knocking on your door. I'm fascinated with
That's okay.
the shamanic practitioner journey. So thank you so much, Sarah. Over to you.
All right, so from the Buddhist thinking of Thich Nhat Hanh to the history of the Church of England to veganism to shamanic practice, a little bit of Taoism, and then the history of some nature-based traditions, we are certainly interfaith today. A lot of different perspectives for us to think about. Lots of food for thought, Barbara. I agree. So we are going to do blessings and prayers now. And we start this segment now with good news by request. And there was some really good news this week on Friday. For those of you that didn't hear it, Friday was a Cat Lady Day, and Friday was also Sylvester the cat's birthday. But that's not the good news. Those are just trivia for you. The good news from Friday is NYU published the New York Declaration on Animal Consciousness. If you have not seen this, it was signed by 40 researchers and includes, quote, the realistic possibility of conscious experience in all vertebrates, including reptiles, amphibians, and fishes, and many invertebrates, including, at minimum, I'm quoting, cephalod mollusks, decapod crustaceans, and insects. So this is hitting the news cycle now, and it's very, very exciting that, we keep pointing towards the kind of statements of consciousness that have been made in other, countries all the time. And now here in New York, we have our own. So if you would like to read, there was actually a full day conference on Friday. And if you would like to read this and get this circulating, this is a really good piece for that kind of question that comes up about, well, insects don't feel anything. They don't have consciousness. They're automata, all of that kind of thing. And I know that last question that came in about how to have conversations about people around different, prickly points about people's beliefs about animals that may not agree with your beliefs. And I think this increase in learning about animal consciousness, and the more scientists that are saying it, in addition to those of us in the religious and the spiritual and the other meaning making and worldviews, that when the scientists start saying it as too, it gives us a little more fuel. So that is my good news for today, and I hope you all feel that that is good news as well. Alongside our good news, we always attend to our challenges too. So Phil, if you could open the chat. And I know that I would like to start with a sacred send-off for dear little Mandy, who I know one of our members who's here every month lost recently, who was a precious, precious, precious cat. If there are any other losses that you've had, human, other than human, habitat, or there are any joys or good news that you'd like to share, the chat is now open, and please feel free to put those in there to let each other know and to let us know the things we can smile about and the things that are breaking your heart that you'd like support for. Yeah. It's a messy world, folks. It's a messy, messy world. And as you all are getting those into the chat and forming your thoughts together, I'm going to double dip, asking Judy Ramsey to come back up. In addition to being a shamanic practitioner, Judy's also an animal chaplain, dynamic animal communicator, interspecies counselor. She mentioned all that. And she and I and an Ayurvedic practitioner, an animal chaplain named Amanda Ree, are going to be at Omega in June together, doing 5 full days of different practices around animals. And so I thought maybe Judy would come and give us a little piece of blessing today. So Judy, I know you've got something you would like to show on the screen. You should have the power to do that. And go for it. And afterwards, I will attend to what's in the chat and we'll do our closing blessing.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. Today, I'd like to share a blessing with you from the Quechua tradition in South America. The Quechua generally believe that we are divine beings. And you've heard of the practice of Tonglen, and that is breathing something in that's bad and breathing out something that's good. The Quechua believe you can breathe something in that's good and breathe something out that's good, because you can transmute that energy within yourself. If you have a piece of paper in front of you, draw 4 directions and kind of determine in your own place where you are, what is north, south, east, and west. Okay? And then for each direction, take a very deep breath and just ground yourself to the earth. And think of a being, as I name the directions, think of a being whose characteristics you admire in that particular direction. So the north is for is for spirit and community. Think of one of your beloved nature beings that represents that for you, that has demonstrated that for you. And I'll show you mine in just a second. To the east is the mind, new beginnings, lightness of being. Think of one of your nature beings that represents that for you. It can be an animal, a tree, a mountain, a stream, a body of water. It can be anything in nature that you feel communicates that with you. To the south is the emotional body. Think of a nature being that helps you with fluidity, with resilience, with the felt sense. And to the west is the physical body, endings, harvests, ancestors. Now these are mine. I have a tree spirit, a couple of animal spirits, and a mountain spirit. Now, where you are, I'm not going to face north because my back would be to you. Face north. Close your eyes. Connect with that being that you have in mind for the north. Breathe in the essence of that being and breathe it out again. And just feel what that felt sense is. Feel what that feels like when it comes into your spirit, into your body. What does it feel like? Then turn to the east. And whatever creature, whatever nature being you designated or called on for the east, take a deep breath in of that spirit essence into your spirit, into your body, and feel what it feels like. And just allow every aspect of your mind, your body, and your spirit to be filled with that essence, and breathe it out again into the world. When you're ready, go to the south, and whatever being you invoked for the south, take a deep breath and breathe in that being's essence. Be the hollow bone that I mentioned before. You're just channeling that being's gifts to the rest of the world. And feel what that feels like when it comes into you, and then gift that to the world with your out breath. And when you're ready, turn to the west and repeat that process with whatever nature being is in the west for you. Breathe in the gifts, the essence, the energy, the spirit, whatever they're giving you, and breathe that out again as a gift to the world around you. And you can open your eyes now and just notice how that feels for you. This is a wonderful daily practice to set the tone for your day. It's a wonderful practice for the end of a very stressful day, to fill yourself with energy that feels wonderful to you, and cleanse yourself of energy that doesn't. Thank you for the share.
Judy, thank you. I had geese and then sprouts. So we're just getting sprouts going on over here. Squirrels and lions. I hope you all had wonderful beings in your practice. And Judy, thank you so much for leading that in. That's very profoundly simple. And I like the movement to that as well. That might become part of my good morning habitat practice. Thank you for that. And we add to our breathing in and out prayers from Nicole that the red heifer sacrifice does not happen. Joys for Victoria, that 4 hours ago she got the edited version of her upcoming book to her editor. Yay, Victoria, that's good news. That almost rivals Animal Conscious Declaration. I know you've been working hard on that. Well done. We wait with excitement for Age Like a Yogi. We also pray for the family of David Ferrando, whose ashes were just interred, and more blessings and prayers for Diane and Mandy. For Christina's boyfriend, who passed away in January. He was a long-term vegan and very compassionate and spiritual. For Portia the cat, who passed away today. And her mom, Sheila, from Catholic Concern for Animals. May Portia be companioned into the what's next. Lars, may the rabbit that died when he ran in front of your car also know that your care and concern for them as they travel perhaps through the Bardo. And may they have a most auspicious next lifetime. And prayers to you too for that event that can jar us so much when those tragic accidents happen. To Lynn's dear companion cat, Josie, who left the world 4 weeks ago. Oh, my friends, we have a lot of loss. For Diane and Mandy and Lynn and Josie, wrapping you all in prayer, Victoria adds, just a few more folks here. Keep your hearts wide open. Dane for Dogs in Madison, Wisconsin has received a judge's approval to proceed with an evidentiary hearing for their petition to appoint a special prosecutor to look into whether Ridgeland Farms, a dog research and breeding facility, is in violation of animal cruelty laws. Whew, that was a lot of words, and I bet there were a lot of words in that hearing and that petition, and some good ones too. May it be read with compassion. And folks are adding in the animals that they had, and we see great representation all around the animal kingdom. Polar bears and pandas, orangutans and cougars, bears and finches, squirrels and pigeons, enormous old growth cedar trees, mountains, horses, coyotes, birds, a tree, javelina families, and mountains. Phil, if you could bring up our final slide that we could add together, our final blessing. If you all would say these words with me, keeping our hearts wide, wide open. May all creatures everywhere be happy and free. May the thoughts, words, and actions of our lives contribute to this happiness and this freedom for all. And please end with your ending word in your interfaith or wisdom tradition or worldview. May it be so. Amen. I mean, so mote it be. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And Phil, there's one more slide after that, if you would show for me. Hey, that's Phil right there on screen. All of you folks, if you would like to go back and do any of the practices that we do, look at any of the interviews that Victoria's done or Elaine has done over the last 3 years, watch the Sunday services you've missed, watch the blessings and prayers, or use them in your community. Please, please, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you will get you'll get videos there, or you can not subscribe and you can just take a look first. We thank Phil today on this anniversary for being with us and all the hard work that Phil does to put these together, to get these up onto YouTube, to slice them into these different components that are usable, and to get them out in the world. So Phil, we are so, so, so very grateful for you, not only for keeping this room sacred and free from disruption, but also for everything that you do behind the scenes to spread compassion out into the world through the Compassion Consortium and all your other endeavors. If you'd like to learn more about Phil, you can catch the interview with Phil from last week. Thank you for joining us for Sunday service today. William, I think you have a few more announcements. And Phil, there's some love for you coming in through the chat, so don't miss it.
Thank you for joining us today. And we'd like to let you know about a few upcoming events before our fellowship time. And we actually have a lot of things going on. So first of all, our spiritual guest for May 19 will be the renowned animal rights activist, scholar, and philosopher, Lisa Kammerer. You all know Lisa. She is an American academic who has written on animal ethics and environmental ethics. She is the author or editor of 9 books. And in 2012, she researched wildlife conservation in Kenya and Peru. And Lisa has coined the term animal, A-N-Y-M-A-L, as what we should use as the correct term for non-human animals. So I've enjoyed her books, and in particular, she's a couple of books that I really, really love. Call to Compassion, Reflections on World Religions, and Animal Advocacy and Animals and World Religions, Rightful Relations. Okay, so that is our next spiritual guest. And then on May 19th, our guest for Compassion Consortium, Compassion in Action, will be Donnie Moss. Donnie is an NYC-based animal rights activist, who runs local campaigns and produces videos for his website, theirturn.net. In 2008, he made the award-winning film Blinders that documents NYC's controversial horse-drawn carriage trade. And now she has protested inside of Adidas flagship store in New York City as part of a global effort to compel the sportswear giant to stop using kangaroo skin in its soccer cleats. So then we have Join Compassion Consortium will join Reverend Sarah, Judy, Liu, Ramsey, and Ramanda Ray for a special animal mindfulness workshop at Omega Institute in Rhinebeck, New York on June 23 to 28, 2024. So unleash your ability to relate to animals on a deeper level as you develop stronger connections and increased understanding of the more than human world. So you will attain insight into the spiritual lives of animals, and all animal lovers are welcome on this mutual soul enriching journey. So then we're doing something very special, and that will be, we have an upcoming important event at Unity Village in Missouri near Kansas City. And the Spiritual Forum will once again be calling all spiritually minded, planet conscious, and animal loving people to enjoy 3 days, Thursday afternoon to Sunday afternoon, of inspiration, learning, renewal, and collaboration as we co-create a world that works for all beings on the planet. All lunches and dinners will be organic and plant-based. Vegans, omnivores, and vegetarians are all welcome. This year's theme is a world that works for all, and the keynote speaker will be John Pierre. So then we have our meditation time, which we have every Monday at 9 o'clock in conjunction with vegan meditation. We're offering a weekly online peaceful half hour of vegan-oriented meditation and mindful sharing. So we'd invite all of you to share for that. It is sponsored by David Simon, the chair of the Compassion Consortium Advisory Board, and he will host it each week at 6 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m., and 8 p.m., 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So please join us for that. And then we have our Compassion Consortium for our engaged member practice on May 14th at 7:30. Reverend Sarah will be offering a practice called Ocean Spirituality, Listening to the Sea. It will be based on what scientists are learning about the lives of orcas and how connecting to them can improve our spirituality and our ability to advocate for these endangered creatures. So let me see what is next. Okay. So we have a new group from the Compassion Consortium. And the question is, have you or someone you know who lost an animal companion and come to the monthly peer support group that we've started, facilitated by Reverend Jenny Pukita? This group is open to the public, so please feel free to share it with your friends and families who are navigating loss, and you'll see this on the chat. I think that's it. I think we're ready to go. We're ready to move forward.